and all of you fans, Scout Parker. Just because you want to throw my head down and try to rip out my hair, that makes me come back 10 times faster. I am the varsity and the anchor of WOW Women's Wrestling.
That doesn't even make sense.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, folks. This is Mr. Green here, and you are listening to the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast and my Not Normal Open. I typically would have a first half of the show that I would do, and I did do that. However, my Tascam that I record on, I keep powered through a USB port of my computer, and I took the batteries out of it like a buffoon. And so when I pulled the cord, forgetting I took the batteries out, I probably had like 5 seconds to save the file before it just got corrupted because I just interrupted this power source. So yes, the first half of that is all gone. And I just didn't feel like re-recording it. I was like, I did like an hour of that. The important ports to talk about were the releases. Unfortunately, we got Sonya Deville's release, Blair Davenport's release. Isla Dawn is released. I mentioned that Natalia brought up Slamovich in some interview somewhere. Yeah, I'm not really giving it all in detail, but you get the point here. Those are just kind of the things that I talked about. And Nikki Bella coming back, and Trish, and hoping her sister comes along with her at some point. Plans for Trish Stratus in the future. And once I got past that, there was some other general overall women's wrestling talk and such, as I tend to do. But we're just going to go directly into the meat of the show. So I would imagine it would answer the question if you saw the time frame on this video or podcast. That is why it is significantly shorter, because I busted the first half. That might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. I don't know. It might be good for you. Certainly, you got less to have to sit through. But on that note, and since you tuned in, thank you in advance. I mentioned all of this to say there are points on the other half of this where I will likely, I know I did it at least once or twice, that when I say, well, when I talked about this earlier, it's in reference to something like that. So my apologies is what this is for. I apologize because if I say something on the other half of this audio, referencing something that I've said that was supposed to be here, that is why you might not remember it, or, you didn't, like, I don't remember hearing that. That's why. Because it's not there for you to hear, unfortunately. So, that being said, the review is still intact. So we now will move it on to review of WOW Women of Wrestling. And we are back. And it is time to go into the review for WOW Women of Wrestling. The slate for this episode. Episode 321. The title championship demands. The air date, February the 1st, 2025. And the chronological number, this will be their 100th, 25th episode since returning to syndicated television. as I stated at the beginning, I, for whatever reasons, saw this audience this episode, and I just could not view them as anything as other than trained seals or Pavlov's dogs. And I tried to say at the beginning, I was like, I honestly cannot tell you why it felt like that this particular episode for me, and I will stress for me. But it just did. It's like when I looked at it and I watched the show, and I'm thinking about, well, what reaction should this audience have for these things, or this person, or this angle, or for whatever angles they may be? How should they be reacting? And then I look at them and they just react the same way by and large. It's just sitting there clapping those thunderclappers together to everything that goes on. And it just, that particular day when I was sitting at work watching it just annoyed me. I was like, man, this is such a contrived show. And, you know, in that instance, I don't want to say they can't do anything about it, because I'm sure they're actively pitching the attendees. I'm hesitant to say fans, but the attendees on cheer for this person, boo that person. Here's your thunderclappers. Make sure you make some noise. And I'm pretty sure that there's a significant portion of that that's going on in this show as well. But all of that aside, because we do have to go into the actual review, and I want to address someone in particular before I go into the review, Santana, who was nice enough and has been nice enough to leave full reviews. And again, if you have not taken the time to read through, I would suggest that you do read through some of those. And, you know, maybe leave your comments, whether what you agree with, what you don't, et cetera, et cetera. But she asked in one of the comments, well, not asked, but brought up two individuals that I had mentioned on the show a couple of times. And then we'll go into the review. I just want to address that. Maestro. You know Maestro. I brought him up a couple of times, and I said that, you know, he got to the point where he just assumed everything was wrong in WoW. Like, whether there was something wrong or not, the second that he determined that something was wrong in that show, everything became wrong, which is where I was like, you know, it's not reflective bad of that individual when something goes wrong. It's reflective bad of the brand. And I don't think that WoW really took that into account, or maybe not cared, or maybe they just don't believe that's true. But when something goes wrong on that show by an individual, the entire brand gets kind of lumped into that. But and this isn't verbatim, it was just asked, like, you know, there wasn't any comments about from Maestro or Miss New Hire, which is where I was getting at. Well, both of those individuals seemingly have started to slide away from WoW. Yes, all of us and more of us are in that room during WoW's broadcast. For those who do not know, brief summary: work in a location that broadcasts these things every week across the country, right? So we're monitoring multiple stations in this hub, which is which is why we see WoW all the time. And as I've stated before, a lot of them tuned into WoW because of me, because I'm there and I'm writing notes and I'm, you know, watching probably 2 broadcasts of it on any given Saturday, unless we have something big that's going on, like a football game. And you know, there are other things that do take place that will just knock WoW out of precedent. Big live sports events might bump WoW depending on what it is. I've seen it bump for extreme tag believe it or not, Extreme Tag took precedent over WoW. I've seen it bump for that. I've seen it bump for the local football games. I've seen it bump for local rugby. I've seen it bump for a number of things depending on which market you're talking about. And it won't be that it's off the air, but it will be that it might. If say it was supposed to air at 11, it might air at 1:00 in the morning, something like that. But anyway, they both seemingly have started to wane away from WoW, Women of Wrestling. One of those reasons being, I'll start with Ms. Newhire because she was a lot more excited about and really into WoW. I mean, she went into this thing with novice eyes, and everything was great. Everything was they did these moves good, they did that good, and you've heard it. You've heard that she literally sat there. Once I started writing, she wanted to do it too, and she literally sat and started writing reviews for WoW, in which she knew. She didn't know a lot about it. You can go back and you listen to any one of those things that I read with her, and you can hear what I'm talking about. She did not know a lot about not just WoW, but professional wrestling in general. But she was kind of taken with it for a second. But what wound up happening is, and I am somewhat summarizing because I haven't asked her in full. Okay, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. What wound up happening is that she was already somewhat confused to the product. And when I say that, I don't mean that she didn't understand who was good and who was bad, because those things became clear. I'm not saying that she didn't understand what a wrestling match was. She understood it to be like this is some variation of combat sport. Somebody wins, somebody loses. What she did not get was motivation to watch. She lost the motivation to watch, and that motivation came from, or would have come from, things that she was somewhat interested in watching. Like she started somewhere in the middle of the build for the Battle Royal. But for her, it felt like every week was like, is the Battle Royal happening? No. Oh, wow. Is the Battle Royal happening this week? No. Oh, man. Is it this? Are they doing it now? No, they're not doing it now. Oh, wow. What are they doing all these matches for? It started turning into that. And then taking account that the people that she largely looked at and said, oh, wow, I like that person, or they look cool, I want to see more of them, she never got to see again. Fury, for instance, was one of the people that she actively named, like, I like her. She got a great look. She looks cool. I want to see her again. She hadn't seen her in like a month and a half. It's those little things that started to, I can't say wear her away, but it didn't give her any motivation / interest in watching WoW, or continued interest in watching WoW. She didn't get any story from the girls themselves. Let's start with that. Everything that was told during the time that she was watching it had to come from David McClain and Nigel Zane. And because of that, it started losing its interest. All of those matches in her eyes started to blur together. Now, did she say that they was blurring together? No, she didn't have to tell me that. Why? And how do I know that? Because of the questions that she would ask. Didn't we just see this match? Who are they again? The country girls. It would be on and on. And again, she's in a location. She's not going to give up her, job description, but each one of us has a station that we are likely to see WoW broadcast at least twice on the average. It's probably, across 2 different cities, but, we are likely to see it broadcast in our station at least 2 different times. If you talk about in the room, there ain't no telling how many times we're going to see that thing, but we're likely to see it at least twice. So if you miss one, about a half hour to an hour later, you might be able to just pop it back in and, just flip to the broadcast of another spot. If you didn't catch it in Philly, you might be able to catch it in Pittsburgh, something like that. But the people that she liked, the people that she identified with, or whatever the case may be, none of them did anything of significant note to make her watch again. Scout Parker, or the environmentalist, actually. She liked the message of the environmentalist. And here's another thing. For her, there was no reason to boo them. They didn't do anything heinous. They didn't do anything that would be largely considered here other than being assholes walking, just by demeanor. But other than that, she didn't see like, well, why am I supposed to be booing them? She didn't understand. The message was fairly clear, like reuse, and she liked the message, honestly. I forget what the exact word, reuse, recycle, something like that. But anyway, she liked the message, and how could you not? It's not like they're telling you something that's horribly wrong. But without going into, it for a lengthy period, I've already talked about it at length already. But she did not find anybody or any angle or anything on that show after a while to maintain her interest, because she didn't understand what it is that she's supposed to be looking at. She didn't understand any of these people's personalities. She didn't understand, what the motivations as to what they were doing and why. She didn't understand, well, what is it that makes this person, the best of the best, and this, that, all of those things kind of fell by the wayside. And she just, it started very slow. I watched it. Real time happened. It started off with watching full episodes. Then it turned into watching episodes halfway. It was on, but it was just background noise. And then she would look up when it was something that she felt like might interest her. Then it turned into it was just on. And she was actively doing other stuff. Like, actually, filling out paperwork or something like that. Things that she could probably done later on in the night. She just like, she was just doing that. Then it got to, I'll flip to this if there's something that's of interest that I see on the monitors. And then it turned into, ultimately, I'm watching 48 hours. 48 hours is more interesting to me. There's a story that's being told, and there's interest there. And that was how she kind of fell away from it. Now, I will go back in and see if she looks at it now, but I really doubt it. It hasn't given her any reason to keep watching. And as far as Maestro is concerned, Maestro has never stopped watching WoW, but his attention span to WoW has drifted. It is no longer a matter of anybody's angle. It's no longer a matter of anybody's storyline. Now, he still will look at it in terms of this person did this wrong or they messed up, and again, he's looking for issues with that, and I fully admit that. But that's what his viewing pattern of that show has become. It started off that way, but at least he will watch it. Now it's just, I watch it solely for the purpose. Well, actually, I can't say solely. He watches it for 2 reasons. One is that looking for whatever problems so that he can tell it to one of the other guys that's in the room. Like, did you see that? She just messed up, blah, 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 blah. And the other one, probably a little less savory for some, is just the women that's there. That's it. That is the only reason that he looks at it now. the Classmaster, and Gloria Glitter. Make of that what you will. But those are two of the people that he will tune in for if they pop up on the screen. Now, there's more, but that's what it's dwindled down to. I mentioned somebody named Extraordinaire because I didn't want to give his name up either. But he's another one. Did not watch that show for anything beyond who was on the show. And I don't mean that in terms of talent. His latest viewing point is Fury. When she's up there running around, then he'll watch. When G.I. Jane was on there running around, he was look at it. But outside of that, they had very little interest in watching that show. I went on a little longer than that than I anticipated, but I just wanted to address those things. And maybe use them as a cautionary tale because they had nothing on that show that they even concerned or cared about. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and try to pretend that like either Miss New Hire, Maestro, or Extraordinaire are representative of the entirety of the populace that tuned into or were remotely interested in WoW. I'm not going to say that or act like it. However, I will say that it bears thinking about, and it could be legitimately a cautionary tale as to how some people view that show. That said, let us get into the bulk of the program. And it started off with Nigel Zane opening the show and Abilene Maverick and Paola Mayfield coming to the ring/ringside. Zane and McLean run down her resume. You know, they talk her up. She was the GOAT on whatever goddamn show she was on. And that's good that they do that to give her some level of credibility. But I said it when she was introduced. I maintain now, as like, if you have somebody that's coming from some sort of outside source like that, you know, it'd be nice to get some photos that you could put on there. It'd be nice to get maybe a clip or two that you could put on there that can help illustrate the point, opposed to them just saying it. Because I'm sorry to say, and I fully believe this, I can't prove it. I'm just going to start off this I cannot prove. But I fully believe that Dave McClain does not have the credibility with certain people that if he says it, they take it seriously. I think that he says certain things and people are like, yeah, okay. It just becomes story because it came out of his mouth. It's just angle, it's just storyline, and you know, and so if they never heard of her going into this match, they won't give it any credibility. But if you have something with, you know, she was, you know, on TV in the reality show, you have some footage of her on TMZ being interviewed, you have some other articles that you could toss up or anything that helps make her look like a big deal, I say go with that. Although they've missed that opportunity, she's, aside from the fact that they say it, she's just one of the girls. And that's pretty much it. She's just one of the girls. They made her normal once she got there. She didn't get any sort of she didn't get an entrance or set up nearly as good as their backstage interviewer. So, you know, I think there was something lost there, but we'll move on. So they come out. Maverick does her promo. She does it her annoying voice, and she's very good at it. And I do understand and recognize that is a put on. You know, that's not her day-to-day talking voice. However, I will say she might want to temper that a little bit before she runs people off. I understand that she's supposed to be this, you know, over-the-top persona, but just before she gets to the stage where it's like, I don't want to hear this woman talk. She might want to temper a little bit of that. So she comes out and she's doing like all heels do. She addresses David about getting another title shot. David, of course, responds. He's like, hey, we gave you a great opportunity, and, you know, we put you in the Battle Royal, which isn't entirely true. They didn't put her in the Battle Royal. She had to win a match and earn getting into the Battle Royal. So I'm not sure if WoW did her any favors necessarily. Be different if they just slotted her in. Like, you don't have to qualify, you're in there. But that didn't happen. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be taking from that, because it wasn't like I gave you this phenomenal opportunity. I put you in the Battle Royal so you can win the title. I was like, well, no, she had to earn that. Somewhere Maverick somehow or another ropes this around to, what I'm hearing is that everybody's scared or doesn't have the guts or whatever phrase that she used. Cue Santana Garrett. She comes down and cuts them off, and McLean gives this over-the-top intro for Santana Garrett. It's another one of those things I say, you know, it doesn't help the image of him to the audience. I know that he's doing the intro and trying to make it grand and big and all that stuff, but that's why you have a ring announcer. That's her job. And what is he doing an introduction like that for her just interrupting? It wasn't like she was coming out for a match. And in theory, it wasn't like she was coming out for a match. It was coming out to address the issue. And so he gives this Santana, and he does all of that. I wrote, is this necessary? He could have just said, hey, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, it's not like he didn't see her name on the goddamn wall and a music playing. We know who it is. And there's a ring announcer probably sitting 5 feet behind her. So I don't know how necessary that was. Anyhow, so she comes out and she's like, hey, I got the guts. And we get our quote impromptu match because now Mayfield has to work herself through the ranks. And this is one of those things like, you know, this shows that Paola, I don't know how well she speaks as a wrestler, but it shows that she needs a mouthpiece. That's what I got from this, that she needs somebody to come out there and do the talking for her. Like I said, I don't know how fluid she is with that. I imagine that she's good enough to be able to speak. I've seen her do sit-down interviews. So, but maybe it was a determination by WoW that, well, you know, we don't have her talk like that because, you know, we don't want her. I don't know. So anyway, we get the match, and this is the beginning of Mayfield having to work herself up into whatever ranks to be a number one contender. Bear in mind that she has not been, what is this? This is her third appearance, I think. She's not been defeated yet, so it's there is something that could be done there, and that there is steam that could be applied to her. She isn't ruined yet by being introduced and having 15 different losses before she wins one. And we'll get to the equivalent of that in a little while. So the match starts off. We got Garrett and we got Paola Mayfield, and there is one editing faux pas that took place there, and it might not have been terribly, you know, egregious or awful, but it is there, and I didn't notice. There's a point in the match when it just starts. It's about 20 or so seconds in when Mayfield has a wrist lock on Santana Garrett, and Garrett's about to do the roll through. We got the close up on them, and you see the beginning stages of her doing the roll through, and then they go to the floor cam, and it's like they didn't shave off the 2 seconds that she had already done on the close up when they switch to the other camera. So it's like a little bit of a stutter, but it's there. I do know that there are people that probably didn't recognize that or might have been like, man, that was kind of weird, and didn't think anything else of it. But that's what that was. That was a little bit of an editing faux pas. It wasn't edited on the action of the role. They just started both of them in the same place, if that makes sense. So anyhow, Garrett and Mayfield, in my opinion, work well together. They had what I would largely look at as a fairly good match. Nothing epic, but it's good. This is probably the first point where I looked at that fan base and the attendees and thought that they are just a bunch of trained SEALs, because that's all they sat there and did is just clap or hit those thunderclaps over and over and over again. Then you got some overacting people out in the front row, which I'm fully convinced they are probably just interns for Jeannie Buzz that she didn't sit down there like, oh yeah, go sit in the front row and applaud and cheer and shit. It looked like at one point in this match there was a miscommunication. Now, this miscommunication did not hinder the match, but it is there. Things do happen. So I can't really, fault it in full, but I felt like maybe Paola thought that Garrett was about to do something different. So the segment or the spot that I'm talking about here is that Garrett was about to go up to the turnbuckles to do an arm drag. She gets Mayfield in a wrist lock and claps her hands together. And, it's not quite old school where you walk the ropes, but she would grab the hands, do a quick run up the rope, and that would be then turned into an elevated arm drag with her, coming off of a high angle as leverage. But what happened here was she being Garrett gets up to the top, top rope, second rope, and she gets ready to come over, but Mayfield sits down with her. So both of them go down, and then Mayfield has to just kind of roll over top of Garrett's prone body to complete the arm drag. Even though at that point it was a lot less of an arm drag and more like just a tumble over her body. Garrett then turns around and does a proper arm drag, I guess to kind of get through the move. So it was, like I said, it looked like it was a little bit of a miscommunication, but it felt to me as I'm watching this like Mayfield is good, but she seems not to be able to take certain moves well. Or maybe it just gets lost in communication. I don't know. The rest of this is, if you want to watch, I would say go ahead and tune in and take a look at it, and it's fine. It can be relatively enjoyable, and this is not a terrible thing to watch. And I think most of the narrative here is going to be like what it is with a lot of stuff. It's going to be a case of whatever it is that is around the match rather than the match itself. So Garrett, at the end, gets Mayfield. She levels her, lays her out. Keep in mind that Maverick is lurking around ringside. I was legitimately surprised that she didn't have to go sit next to David McClain and talk through this entire match. I was seriously, legitimately surprised that he was like, hey, come over here, Abilene. Let's, have a conversation or whatever. So Garrett lays Mayfield in the center of the ring. She gets ready to do her handstand, springboard, whatever, moonsault, and finish off Mayfield. But when she goes over and she does her handstand, Maverick grabs both wrists and yanks him out from underneath Garrett. Garrett goes face first into the mat. This, of course, gives an opening for Mayfield. And I was, again, I was not just shocked. I was happy that Maverick actually did a managerial thing. But it, like I said, it gives opening for Mayfield. Mayfield gets up, gives a quick kick in the guts to Garrett, and then she hits her with like a running neck breaker. I'll be honest, I am not. I hope this is not how she does it or does it going forward. I'm not fond of that neck breaker. It just looked like she's barely grazing her, and then Garrett just has to kind of flop over for it. I mean, I can't say it any other. It's like it's a weak finisher. That's all. It's a weak finisher. And I don't know why that would knock her out to the point that she just, I can't move, I can't get up, I'm done. She's taking worse things than that just at any given point in the match. But as Mayfield runs into the ropes, like, I'm going to give a quick twist to the top of your head, and then Garrett sells it, and then that's it. 1, 2, 3, she's done. So, we got Paola Mayfield, the GOAT, gets the pin, immediately rolls out of the ring, and then is off to the ramp with Abilene Maverick. Apparently her in new managerial status. Here's one thing that I've discovered about WoW, or at least I've noticed with them lately. We used to have the WoW steps. You remember the WoW steps? Every conversation that WoW had to take place at the bottom of those steps, directly before they were walking into the ring or the arena at the Belasco, right? Now, the WoW ramp has become the thing for heels. For whatever reasons, the heels leave walking backwards up the ramp just long enough to receive whatever bad news that they're going to receive, or bad news for them. And this was no different. Maverick and Paola, they are celebrating the victory. They're getting ready to walk up the ramp, and Garrett, unhappy about the loss and how she lost, as she should be, addresses David. She gets the microphone. She's like, hey, you saw what just happened. And, of course, he agrees. And she's asking for a rematch. I'm summarizing here. She's asking for a rematch. And he decides, yeah, you do deserve a rematch. And I'll tell you what, Abilene Maverick, you're going to be barred from ringside. You'll be banned, right? Now, of course, as this is happening, both Mayfield and Maverick are just standing around on the ramp, because that is where all heels receive their bad news, right there on the ramp. And the over-animated David McClain is, finger waving and yelling around, and this is going to be, you'll be barred from ringside. That happens. And Maverick and Mayfield are, what? No! The same thing that every heel does now on WoW. Stand on the ramp, yelling and screaming about, what? You can't do that! Damn! It started off well with that, but now it feels like it's becoming a trope. Like, this is just the location that, if I have to tell you something, I got to tell you it here while you're walking away, because you didn't bother to leave the arena when you had a chance. Surprisingly enough, somebody else got the banned treatment. So Maverick is banned from the upcoming match, whenever that match happens to be, of the return of Garrett and Paola Mayfield. Good for them, I guess. So, we go to the next thing, which is a promo for Penelope Pink and HollySwag versus Dojo Defenders, followed by the match. Penelope Pink and HollySwag with Lana Star versus the Dojo Defenders. This is where part of when I started feeling like, why are they doing this? Beginning with this, we just left a situation where David McClain has illustrated that at any given time, he is capable of enforcing the rules of the ring. This being one of them. And this is why I can't say it enough. I don't understand why it is so difficult to understand for them that he should not be at ringside, other than that he just wants to be. Because it doesn't make any sense. People who would watch this show and look at it for a long enough period of time, I can understand them starting off watching the show and not being caught up in the specifics of the show. I can understand that because that happens with a lot of people. It happens with all of us. Especially when you're just seeing something, and you're happy to see it and you're enamored by it and like, oh man, that looks cool. But you can't keep watching the same thing, do things that would violate, somewhat logic, and it not get to you at some point. When you have a guy that's there that can actively stop the cheating or whatever else little things that the heels are doing, but just chooses not to, and not just chooses not to, I'm going to sit here and call it for the viewing audience at home, letting you know that I see exactly what you see. I just didn't do anything about it. But yet in the previous segment, I did something about it to some degree, but I just won't do anything further. It's never been explained why he just picks and chooses. It's never been shown that he can't, do something else. It's never been illustrated that, while I'm here, I'm just a commentator and I don't utilize any power, blah, blah, blah. None of those things have happened. It just comes and goes. He just does it or he doesn't. And like I said, at some point in time, even regulars will look at that and like, well, wait, why didn't he stop Swag? Or something like that. She comes out there spinning a rock. They say it. There she is with her rocking a sock. So it's not like it's a secret. We know, and everybody knows that she's going to use. There's almost 0 point in the subterfuge of the heels to do it when they know that they're gonna. I mean, it would be something else if these were two commentators who were powerless to do anything about it. Then it would make a lot more sense because it's not like HollySwag doesn't try to cheat. Now, I don't agree. Again, I don't agree with her just coming out there waving a thing around. But it's not like she tries to, be as blatant with it as possible, other than that she walks out with it. But it doesn't make any difference because he's there and there's cameras on him and they call it. And, and we all know that he sees it and we all know that he can do something about it. He just doesn't unless he feels like it. So in any case, this next match, the one that I just said, one half of the Fab for Pink and Swag. The important portion of this match has nothing to do with the match. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. The important part of this is the interactions between Penelope Pink and HollySwag. Swag is in the position of the overbearing, obnoxious new member that is part of the team. Pink is not enamored with HollySwag, certainly. And it is, just because of body language and how they interact with each other, it shows. HollySwag holds up for a high five. Penelope Pink doesn't do it. Penelope Pink wants to, do the thing with Lana Star where they hold hands and they do their pose. HollySwag just kind of busts through it, which I don't know where they're going with this. What is HollySwag supposed to be doing, and why would Lana Star accept that? Like, I can understand if the stablemates of HollySwag were like, I don't like this girl, and I could get that. But why on earth would Lana Star want the disrespect of this girl just busting through what they do on a week-to-week basis? And that's what she did. She just kind of like, as they were doing, she just pushed her way through it and started dancing in front of them. So, I don't know where they're going with that. And it starts to come off more like one-upsmanship. That's what it seemed like they were trying to do. And then I start thinking back to the stuff that Dave McClain was talking about weeks ago. Like, people online are saying that HollySwag is a Trojan and that she's just there to disrupt the group and whatever he was talking about. Now, at that time, we didn't see any evidence of that, right? That was just stuff that he said. But now we're at a point where it looks like that's what's happening. So did he call this out ahead of time, before we saw it? Is that the actual thing that they're doing? Is this a case of, Pink and Swag just not getting along because, I want to be the top person in the group, or, this new girl's not going to take my spot? I don't know what they're going with that. So the Dojo defenders come out, and like I said, all due respect to the Dojo defenders, but this match was all they needed was another tag team across from them. It didn't matter who it was. This has nothing to do with any particular angle. They just needed bodies in the ring. It starts off with Penelope Pink pushing HollySwag into the ring, or pushing her forward. They were already in the ring, but making sure that she was the legal person starting off the match. And so she does. And without going into any great detail about the entirety of the match, we got Swag opening up with both of the Dojo defenders. She takes a beating, takes the scorpion kick, takes the double team. They do the kicks front and back while she's seated in the ring. And it's all well and fine until, she has to tag out the Pink because, she's being overwhelmed. And the defenders do pretty good here. I didn't have any problems with what was going on, for the most part, nor did I have a problem with what was going on with Pink and Swag. I will say, you've heard me say that I like Lana Star and that she's probably the best manager that WoW has. But here's where I think the chink in the armor is starting to kick in for Lana Star. She's beginning to telegraph interference, opposed to her doing it. She's beginning, as it relates to Penelope Pink in particular, she's beginning to telegraph when her spot is about to come up. She started walking out of her corner well ahead of anything that was going on. So when you see her, when Pink is in a neutral corner and she's being beaten up by Terror Strike, Lana Star has already kind of walked her way over to that corner. And you could argue that, hey, well, she's over there so that her client can hear her or something like that. But the second I saw her in that corner away from where she should be, by HollySwag in their corner, like there's a spot that's about to come up. I didn't know what the spot was, but like there's a spot that's about to come up. And sure enough, that spot was about to come up. I also want to say I don't necessarily think that Terror Strike should be utilizing those palm strikes anymore. they don't look as good on television. I'll say that. I'm not going to say that they don't hurt. I'm not going to say that they don't, have any issues, but they don't look as good to me on television. So anyway, back to the Lana Star telegraphing thing. She's already over in the corner. And she's standing there on the opposite side. So that will say it is about as telegraphed as it could be. Strike runs over to the side with HollySwag. Swag grabs the hair. Pink is about to run at Terri Strike. Meanwhile, Lana Star is getting up on the apron. Pink slides through, grabs the leg on the way out, and trips Strike, and then turns and then gives her a big boot to the side of the head. All of that was very nice. Is just a matter of me saying that Lana Star feels like she's beginning to telegraph whatever spot it is that they're about to do. It looks like if you're paying attention enough, you can see this happening. Then we get Pink and we see Swag going back and forth like, all right, that's how you do it. They got Strike in the corner, they're beating her up, and they're trying to show who is better than the other one, apparently. This is why I say it didn't matter who they had in the ring. This was not a feud or anything to further between the Dojo defenders and Swag and Pink. This was just a means to an end to further what's going on internally of the Fabulous Four. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not saying that they're wrong for doing it. Somebody has to do it. It's just going off of somebody's comment before. I'm really starting to believe the comment. Now, I wish I could remember who said it. I know I read it on Reddit. Make sure I say that clearly. But it just feels like with factions and whatnot, they cannot be beaten by someone else, at least not long term. They have to be destroyed from within. And that's what it started to feel like with the Fabulous Four. Like they had to be destroyed from within. Although, if it is a case of HollySwag, like, haha, we fooled you, dude, this was all a plan, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, at what point did this plan kick in? Was this before or after you hit your mother in the head with a rock? Anyhow. So let's just get to the end. I mean, look, you know what the finish of this was going to be. It was never in doubt. The Fabulous Four, or the two representatives of it, they are the ones that won. HollySwag hits a hitch and ditch on Terri Strike, although it's saved by Kai. And then Swag gets the beating up on Kai, or at least attempting to. Strike hits a pretty good kick on the side of the jaw of HollySwag, and then Pink gets in. Pink starts getting drilled by Kai. Kai's doing a great job. And Pink looks like she's in danger, although she, was able to survive it. Then Swag gets into the ring. And she's shoved off. And the referee looks lost because there's all four people in the ring. And he's just like holding his hands like, hey, what's going on? I miss the days when referees had some level of authority attached to them. Strike tries to do like a haluva kick. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. In the corner. I know they have different names, but I'm sure people would know it by that. Swag gets out of the way, so Strike misses. Then Kai continues on with Pink. Now, what we didn't see, we found out later on, is that HollySwag knocked out Terri Strike with the rock on the outside. Then Lana Star does the same thing. She goes over and distracts the referee, who, of course, turns his attention to where Star is, as HollySwag is getting into the ring. And he had to actively ignore it. And this is why I say the timing. In this case, for the referee, we'll probably say that. But the timing of this was a little bit bad because there's no way that the referee could not have seen HollySwag. He was actively standing in the ring when she came in there to attack, not Strike, but Kai. He was standing right there. And rather than say, hey, get your ass out of this ring, he turned to Lana Star like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you up on the apron? What's going on here? Get down. So Swag hits her finish on Kai. Pink rolls over on her and gets the pinfall. None of that was as important as the aftermath of it, where Swag cuts a promo essentially putting over Penelope Pink in somewhat of an overbearing, obnoxious way. Like, finish the move that you did? Wow, you got to show me that, just kind of disingenuous, putting her up on a pedestal and just the Fab Four in general. And in this instance, we'll say taking a back seat to the two of them. This is one of those things, going back to the earlier statement, it's like it feels like this might have been out of sequence. Like if I saw this match and then the following week we heard something about, some people are saying that HollySwag might be playing them along for whatever reasons or what, that might make sense to me. But the fact that it was said weeks ahead of this does not make me feel good about the angle. It just feels like a waste. And who knows what's going to happen. Now, we already saw the footage of them leaked. I mean, you can go into the community tab on our YouTube page, and you can see there's footage of them two with the belts already. That's already been aired. And it's not like it's leaked footage. It was on their own TV show. So that was overlooked as well by whoever is doing quality control there. Yeah, I mean, same song and dance. The matches could be fine. Stuff around it, not so much. And as a side note of example, going back to the audience and using HollySwag, a.k.a. Holly Hood, and OVW, and I am going to say go and find this match. It's up on their OVW TV page or channel right now. She got into the, I brought it up, but she got into the match with J-Rod for the OVW Women's Championship, and she was willing to put her career on the line against that. Now, unfortunately, she lost, but, it's wrestling. So that leads me to believe one or two things. Either A, she is about to test the waters elsewhere, whether that be, I know she's done some stuff with the NWA, so that's possible. Maybe she might be just hitting the independent circuit hard. Maybe she's signed on with somebody else. I don't know. But it feels like that might be the transition that's going on. Or she could be doing the old Midnight Rider deal. I lost, but I'll come back some other way to get even. But the point that I brought that up for is that if you look at that match, there's people there who are legitimately heartbroken that she lost. Those fans are into it. There were people crying. And I said that when I was not involved in, but when I shot a Lose or Leave here. Because the fans believed in that guy. They wanted to see him. When his name is Landon Hale. Now I forget where Landon's wrestling now. I think he moved up to the Northeast. But at the time, when he was here, he was somewhat beloved. He was, he was the typical, well, not typical, but he was a good babyface. And people wanted to see him succeed, especially considering in his angle he had lost multiple times. Same dynamic here. HollySwag lost the championship. She hadn't been able to overcome J-Rod. She gave a heartfelt promo about these people who they hated me when I was here before, but now they love me. And she feels like, I have to do this. And in order for me to get, what I want, I'm willing to put my career on the line against that championship. Give me another shot. And if I can't beat you, then I don't need to be here. Now that's not verbatim, but that's, basically it. And then she loses, and they make it a big deal. Locker room comes out while she's still in the ring. We seeing camera shots of the audience members disappointed, sad, heartbroken, some of them legitimately crying. Her mom, Amazing Maria, comes out there to comfort her, gives her a hug. Which is why I know OVW cannot possibly acknowledge anything that goes on WoW. But that's another story. But yeah, that difference in audience and that difference in storytelling is speaks for itself. In my opinion, it speaks for itself. And I just wanted to take a second to say that as it relates to the audience, because there is a vast difference in the crowds that go to these shows. I mean, the best way I could describe it before moving on is OVW and most other wrestling companies. I'm not just going to label it to OVW, but most other wrestling promotions, those people look like they wanted to be there to see whatever it is that was going on, finish up and or conclude. WoW feels like a bunch of paid attendees. I know they sell tickets, but it just felt like it was a bunch of paid attendees. Like, hey, we'll give you these tickets. Just sit in the front row and applaud. Next segment. Commentators recap the promo for the commentators recap this promo for the next match, which is going to be Ashley Blaze and Scout Parker. So Scout Parker has worked herself back into a singles match. Why and for what reason, I don't know. We saw a whole 2 matches with them as the environmentalists. Her and what's the other girl's name? Sprout. This is a stupid name. Sprout Greens. We saw a whole 2 matches. Before one they won, the second one they lost, and then it's like, all right, well, it's back to singles action I go, and I'm sure she'll inexplicably just run back into a tactic. I don't know what they're looking to get from this. I don't get it. Are they trying to get over the team, or are they trying to get over Scout? It's not explained. And I would think if the environmentalists was supposed to be some big deal, or they were supposed to be, all right, we're going to try to make something of this, that they would continue on and trying to push or at least highlight and show that team. Here they're not doing that at all. They just inexplicably vanished. And then there's Ashley Blaze. And I don't know what to say about her, other than I think WoW has grossly misused this young lady. I don't care what the results were in this particular match. I think they have grossly misused her. But we will talk about that as we get through the match. Now, the match, I enjoyed the match. I'm just going to say that now. But before we go into any other ideology about, what took place before, after, or storylines, angles, and anything in between, I enjoyed the match. I actually would advocate for Scout Parker. I don't know if she owns that. I would assume that she does not. But if there was anything that I could say for her at this point, take that act on the road. She looks like she can get some stuff done in the ring if, given the opportunity. Now, would she have to, work at it ahead of time and have it all constructed before? Or would she be able to do this on the fly like some other wrestlers do? I don't know. But she looks like she at least has the athletic capability of doing it. She looks like she believes in the person that she is portraying. And she moves very well in the ring. Hasn't really given a lot of background on who she is or why she's doing what she's doing or whatever motivation she has. Hasn't done a lot of that. But there's something there for her. I don't know if WOW is going to be the place that she is able to fully realize that. But I think there's something there for her. I really do. The match. Scout Parker and Ashley Blaze. Believe it or not, I enjoyed this match. I know I might not say it often, but I enjoyed this match. And it's not that the first match was bad, or the second for that matter. They were all good matches. I just think that I walked into Santana Garrett, I pretty much expect a good match from. And I watched a couple of things with Mayfield, and I expect her to do pretty good. And aside from the little miscommunication, the match was fine. I didn't have an issue with it. Nor did I have an issue with Swag or Pink taking on the Defenders. I thought they did well there too. But I think here, just because I'm hesitant to say that my expectations were low, but I mean they might have been a little bit lower than what I would normally have. And I saw these two, and I thought they did very well together. Ashley Blaze and Scout Parker seemingly had fair chemistry. Not only did they have fair chemistry, in my opinion, I thought that just on the merit of trying to make it look like some level of competition and or struggle to win, I felt like they did a really good job in that. Now, I still feel that Ashley Blaze is grossly mislabeled and misused and all that stuff because, I mean, what has she been there for 5 months? Something like that. She got there. We're talking about TV in TV land. Now, we all know that this took place like within a month of tapings, but on TV, she's been there since October. And in that time, Ashley Blaze's record is nothing to write home about. Is nothing stellar. I mean, she maintains the aura of I'm good and I'm better than you, and she maintains that. But I mean, let's call a spade here. There's really no reason to get behind Ashley Blaze based on presentation. We're not talking about how well she works in the ring. Based on the presentation of her, there's no reason to get behind her. She's not had a good run at WOW. Even though her promo after the match, and she does cut a promo after the match, would somewhat lead you to believe otherwise, like, it might make you think, oh man, she must be one of their top stars. But when I see stuff like that, it's almost like WOW is depending on you not having watched this show week to week or not having a reasonable memory of what you might have seen previously. It is another case of, J-Rock said it best. Everybody's presented the same. I love that he left that comment on there. But yeah, every WOW superhero is presented the same. I cannot say it any better than that. Regardless of what happens, when it happens, who it happens to, or how. Everybody has a fair chance to beat everybody. No one is positioned, or they might be positioned that way. They're not presented as being less than the next person. Anytime somebody comes out, this is going to be a stellar match. Regardless, we don't care that Ashley Blaze lost for a month and a half. Then when she's in the main event, it's going to be worth your time to tune in. Well, that's what WOW would let you to believe. Like, for me, that'd be a waste of time. Like, this woman has lost over and over and over again. Why is her being in the main event something that I want to see? So in any case, before I get away from the praise that I was attempting to give the match, Blaze looked good here. Parker looks good here. Right from the get-go, they look good. Just look at the lockup between the two of them. At least looks like it wasn't as strong as, say, Del Rey and Holiday or Blaze and Mayfield. But it was a strong lockup, and then it goes off into the wrist lock, and there looks like there was some, effort to try to neutralize / ground your opponent. I'm like, even Parker in the wrist lock gets yanked down. Well, not yanked down, but her arm gets kind of snapped a little bit. I don't mean broke. I mean, Blaze just kind of yanks it down. But Parker's still in a vertical position, and then she, uses her left foot to break the grip of Ashley Blaze so that she can do the reversal. And she's got a really good wrist lock applied. Blaze then comes back, and she's trying to work through it so she can get or reestablish the advantage. I mean, it looked like it was a case of move and counter move, and not just a bunch of, goofing off or whatever the case may be. And relative to her experience level, I think that might be why I'm impressed with Parker, because I don't know and am not aware of that she goes running around on the independents working anyplace else. This is the one match where Blaze gets to do her little show-off thing where it didn't come back and bite her in the ass. There's a drop-down spot by Parker. Blaze does a nice rollover, and then she turns over and kind of like gives her this arrogant blowing of kisses and stuff like that. Like, look how smooth I am. She does a nice shoulder block into Parker. Parker, sometimes the facial expressions look like she might be ready to break out and start laughing, but other than that, there's a lot of snap there. There's some deliberate effort. Like, look at when she reverses the throw into the corner. Blaze has Parker. Parker whips it around, shoots her in, and Blaze attacked that turnbuckle. It's kind of like what I was saying that, Crystal Waters doesn't attack the ropes, but Blaze attacked that turnbuckle. She made it look like she was just hurled into that thing at full throttle. And her shoulder was hurt, and then Parker goes right after it. Goes for an arm breaker. Starts giving her a lip. Starts working for that. That becomes the target. Great arm drag, and then she holds on to it. And honestly, if I had a wrestling promotion and Parker was available, I would get her. I would try to get her. Even knowing that she might not be experienced as the rest, I would try to get her. Because I think that there's promise there. Now, whether she goes for it or not, I don't know. But I think that there's at least the promise of, okay, there might be a future here in the business for her. Blaze, I'm already, sold on. I think that she's very good. I just don't think that she's used well. Neither one of these people get a chance to really illustrate who they are, what they're doing, what their motivations are. But you can say that probably about 95% of the roster. You don't know who they are, why they're there, or what their motivations are. They're just there in the wild, and the only thing that you know about them is that everybody's privileged to be there. Thank you for letting me be in the wild. I mean, the narrative of pro wrestlers have changed drastically over the last couple of decades. It used to be that you were lucky to have me. Now is thank you so much for giving me this job and allowing me to wrestle for your company. And in any case, Parker she drops some good knee drops on that arm. The focus of her match was attacking the arm, the thing that got hurt, the thing that she saw the weakness on or the bullseye get painted on the second that she reversed it and tossed Blaze into the corner. And it stayed with that. And I love that. I love that there was a little bit of a physical story being told in the ring. Was there some sort of angle? No, but you could understand Scout Parker knows that the arm is bad and this is what I have to do in order for me to get some level of advantage and defeat her. So going after the arm over and over and over again, one of the best spots that she has is when she tests the air. She gives a forearm shot to the back of Blaze. Blaze goes down to her knee. She does the old, the wind's right type of thing. You know, when you put your finger in there, you lick your finger, you put your finger in there to see which way the wind's blowing or whatever. So she runs into the ropes. She gets a bit of a leapfrog over top of Blaze. She comes back off of the ropes. Blaze looks like she might be going for, say, let's call it a sidewalk slam or something. And Parker rolls through magnificently into an armbar. I mean, it was smooth. It was so smooth. And still, the attack remains on the arm. Blaze is struggling. You can see her facial expressions are great. She's trying her best to get out of it, to get free. Parker forces her back in, pushes the forearm down on the shoulder. And she's trying to keep her down. Blaze trying to collapse the hands. This was a good match by all definition. So Parker has her. We'll get to where Blaze starts to mount her comeback. She was out of neutral position, like with her arms crossed across her own throat, her being Blaze. But when she's able to get back up into the standing position, now she's doing the flying snap mirrors. And she's still holding it. Go back and watch it. I'm encouraging you. Go back and watch it. She's still holding the arm. Still selling it. And then she gets Parker in what would have been, it looks like a hammerlock DDT. Parker is able to get herself free from it somehow and gives Blaze a kick in the guts. Off into the rope she goes, and then she's hoisted up into firewoman's carry position. And then that is it. Boom, she gets hit with a TKO, and she sold that thing. She was out cold. And 1, 2, 3, we're done. I really believe it was a good showing on both parties. I hate that they are both saddled in a position where we, the viewer, don't know much about either one of them, and neither of which have done much in WoW. It was a good standalone match. So, and there's a lot of charisma from Ashley Blaze. A lot of, great work from both of them. I don't know whether they coached Parker ahead of time or whatever the case may be, but she did a really good job there. And I was far more interested in her individually than a team now, just based on that match. But then I also expect them to turn around and be like, all right, well, we're going to hear the environmentalists again. It's like I can't get behind her one way or the other because there's nothing steady or consistent. It would not shock me if the next time I see her, she's right back with her tag team partner. Assumably her tag team partner. Because you never know with WoW. So, Blaze is in the ring. McLean gets in. And I don't know whether this was edited down. I don't know if Blaze just took and maintained control. But either way, I'm going to say good on either Blaze for maintaining control of the mic or good on the editors for let's just dwindle this other stuff down. Because McLean gets into the ring and he's, doing the old after-match interview deal, which probably should be Sibley Scoles since you're paying her money. But, that's beside the point. lots of charisma, great delivery from Blaze. My only problem is that there was not a lot of substance to the promo. Like, ultimately, when you really think about the promos, like, this didn't say anything. It just, like, I don't even know what she meant. Like, I'm the varsity and the anchor of WoW. Like, how is that possible? You had a horrible win-loss record. You haven't done anything to be regarded as the varsity or the anchor. Like, when people used to say Tommy Dreamer's the franchise player of ECW, well, you couldn't really argue that. Because of all the people that walked in and out of that company, Tommy Dreamer stayed. And he fought for that company, and he became like the face. You couldn't really argue that with Sting at WCW back in the day. He was the franchise of WCW. When everybody else left, Sting stayed loyal. That type of thing. You know, there was some level of illustration to the words that were being said. You understood, okay, this guy is the top player here, because not just because they said it, because I can see it. Ashley Blaze can say whatever she wants. She's not that yet because WoW has not presented her that way. And it doesn't really help that, I mean, despite what I think about the match, it doesn't really help that the person that she beat probably has as bad of a win-loss record as she does. I mean, let's just go back through Ashley Blaze's record so far. This is her 6th match in the company. In that time, since October, she's lost to the Classmaster. She's lost to HollySwag. She's lost to Genesis. She's lost to Paola Mayfield. And she's lost to Penelope Pink. Now, of course, somebody has to. That's just the nature of wrestling. But if she was supposed to be presented as some sort of top player in the company and looked at as, oh man, is Ashley Blaze a main event star, then she needs to be winning more than she's losing. And WoW has not done that. She doesn't win more than she loses. She loses way more than she's ever won. And none of that's going to help, you know, her perception, if anything else. The next segment, David and Nigel open in talking about strange things happening between Pep Riley and Chainsaw. Now, keep in mind, we've not seen anything that has happened between Chainsaw and Pep Riley beyond the exchanging of flowers and, you know, her being walked out Chainsaw by Pep Riley. I didn't really care for this video because it was too overdone for me. It was a little too cute for what they needed. First off, I don't know why in every video package that they do, regardless of who it is, we got to get the Los Angeles skyline. I'm not sure what is that relative to Chainsaw. Also, why did we have this little girl playing, you know, the role of Baby Chainsaw? And we watch this, and then, you know, we get the voiceover of Chainsaw and her big sister Angelica Dante, and they're showing the footage of her wielding this chainsaw around, one that we never see on television, and neither should we, because she ain't never going to use it. I'm surprised that they actually got to the point where Jinx used the whip, even if it was just as a point of constrainment. We see footage of Chainsaw choke slamming Americana. We see footage for choke slamming one of the 24/7 girls, Bay, even though I don't think she's officially been labeled a 24/7 girl. Then we start seeing Chainsaw's exchange with Pep Riley and the passing of the flowers back and forth and all that good stuff like that. And I guess the illustration of Dante not liking it because they show her slapping the flower out of her hand. This carries on until they get to the match that Pep Riley had with who it wasn't. Siren was at ringside, but it was Miranda Mirage. So we get to that point, and then, we see Chainsaw carry Pep Riley out of the ring and, walk her back up the stage and all that good stuff. This video package felt out of sequence to me. Did not feel like this belonged on this week's episode because they already paid that off. Like, why are we seeing this now? The one thing that you did not get out of that video package was seeing Pep Riley come down there and pull her away from her sister. We didn't see that. We saw all other things that led to it, but we did not see the actual Pep Riley coming down to, hey, you don't have to do this. You don't have to attack this person. You can be good, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know why it would just be out of sequence. Well, let me not kid myself. I do know why it would be out of sequence, because they would just do stuff like that. But yeah, it feels like this is out of sequence. It feels like it's already been paid off. It feels like, what am I watching this for? What am I recapping? It's not building to anything else. The task is done. Chainsaw has left. So I don't know what this, on their YouTube channel, they call Destructions to Daisies. So I don't get what that's about. And just to leap ahead, nor do I get the idea of what they're doing with them going forward. Because by all accounts, it looks like that now they're just taking a drastic turn in the opposite direction. But God damn it. Let me not start about that now. I will move on, and we'll come back to that when I do the preview. So next segment. Anyway, point being, this video package, Chainsaw, Pep Riley, that whole thing, this feels out of place. Did not care for the young lady playing Baby Chainsaw in it. But I can get past that. But what I can't get past is that this does not feel relevant. It looks good, but it doesn't feel relevant. Next segment, Sibley Scoles. I hated this segment, by the way. This one I'm about to talk about right now, I hated this. The Sibley Scoles segment is just ridiculously bad. I was waiting to see whether they would be able to do something interesting with Sibley Scoles. She clearly is a talented woman. Maestro, we bring him back up. He did not watch the shows, but what he did do for me is that he gave me a video with Sibley doing a podcast, because, he's a big hip-hop guy. He produces and stuff like that. And they were talking to some of Kendrick's people. And lo and behold, who was hosting that but Sibley Scoles? She has a great personality, and she does present well. I never thought that she did badly on camera, but this is just a waste of her. It's a waste. And she might as well just go ahead and admit that. They have wasted her. It's only been 3 weeks, and I'm already like, they should have just kept their money. So, first things first. It starts off with Sibley promoting or introducing the segment. And this is supposed to be the setup for the main event. We see Princess Aussie, and she's in the studio. They got the promotional video package stuff going on for her. She looks great. And then we cut to the Classmaster and Samantha Smart, and she looks as fucking stupid and silly as ever. Why are they instructing this woman to do this? What is with all these faces? Why does she do this all the time? And then the second part of the thing that I didn't like. This is every reason that I said that the Classmaster and Samantha Smart as a combination, not saying individually they wouldn't be okay, but as a combination, it does not work. Samantha Smart and the Classmaster both walk into this interview segment with Scoles, and they are immediately towering over this young lady. And who's front and center to that? Who's the one that looks like she is being dominating, aggressive, whatever terms that you want to put to Samantha Smart talking to Scoles? It's Samantha Smart. Not the wild champion who's standing there looking like a goof, holding a book and with cap and gown on. Smart is standing over top of Scoles, giving her the riot act. And the Classmaster does not say a word. It's bad enough that they just refuse to let her get rid of that goddamn cap and gown. I mean, she's gimmicked up all of the cap, the gown, the book, all of that. Just gimmick, gimmick, gimmick. So Smart comes in, and they, like I said, they're towering over top of the first thing. Is like, yeah, well, we'll make some short joke. And Scoles is painfully short next to them. It took everything off of the Classmaster that you could possibly have. The visual of Classmaster being the tall one over the interviewer is lost here because Smart is just as tall, and she's the one that's imposing over to the backstage interviewer. She's the one that's being aggressive. She's the one that's basically shoving her around and giving her lip. Meanwhile, Classmaster's just standing back there looking up at the lights. And if that weren't bad enough, Scoles has a response, and it's like, well, it doesn't. Because let me reset it and set the table here. Smart says something to the effect of, "Well, you sound like you think that Princess Aussie has a chance," or whatever the case may be. Scoles has a response. It's like, well, it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what's going on out in the ring, and then they just cut away, and there's no response. There's nothing else behind that. I was like, what was this segment for? If this is going to be the height of her doing anything as a backstage interviewer, it is a waste of time and a waste of money and a waste of her talent. You couldn't even finish the segment. Why would you incorporate an interview segment within the video package if you're not going to finish out the interview segment? Why is the interview segment within the video package to begin with? You had a chance to try to get this woman some personality behind her other than standing around making faces constantly. That is her only driving personality trait outside of the ring. Other than them saying that she's 6'2" every chance she gets. I mean, to use the logic of the guy in Reddit is like, that must be her first name. The 6'2", first name 6'2", last name Classmaster. And that's all she does. Just make dumb face after dumb face. If there was anybody out there that had any doubt that this was just a cartoon wrestling company, they have nothing to disprove them when the Classmaster is their champion, doing what she's doing. And like I said, it did not help that Samantha Smart took the spotlight off of her. She's not supposed to take the spotlight off of her. She's supposed to highlight the Classmaster, but she can't do it because she's too tall. It would have come off 1,000 times better to have a Classmaster towering over top of Scoles, whether she had a manager there or not. It would have visually given you the impression that this woman is, oh, wow, she's big, she's dominated. You would have gotten that regardless of what she said, had she been standing there. But having another person that as tall neutralized that. And like I said, it didn't make any difference that Scoles was there. Like any person that they got off the street who looked pretty and can hold a microphone could do what she's doing right now. She has not shown any reason for them to have gone out of their way to hire her or drop press releases or anything like that. All we've seen from her so far is a pitch for WoW as a company when she got Xena Phoenix, because it's not about who won and lost. It's about you having a good time. We saw a pitch for fictional dog food, which, why are they doing that when there's supposed to be some disgusting punishment and they're showing a dog food commercial that makes it sound like this is great for your championship dog? That kind of went against the narrative of the match. And then we got this, where she got to introduce it, talk down to, and I don't mind the talking down to because they're heels, so I'm not getting on Smart for that. She's doing her job. But like I said, it neutralized Classmaster. Classmaster just basically turned into a mute whose only purpose is just to walk around and scowl and frown and hold the book up. And I don't even know if she goes out there and says read a book anymore. She just is. I don't know. I'm at a point where I think that if they were trying to get some rub from Scoles as a celebrity to their area, and that was the other thing, Scoles, talented as she may be, I don't know if she was a name that was big across the board of the nation to where it's like, man, we got Sibley Scoles. I don't know if it was that. And even if they did, they have wasted her. Unless something turns around in the next episode and the following, this is a waste of time. I'm sure it's a nice paycheck for her to get, but she hasn't done anything there. She hasn't done anything to justify the position of Sibley Scoles as a backstage interviewer because of this and things like it. Next time, just get somebody out of college that wants to do this and pay them minimum wage or whatever it is that you pay and let them do it, right? Because you having a name to do this backstage segment means nothing. It means nothing. So anyway, next segment was the promo for next week, Xena Phoenix and Genesis. I was questioning the terminology they use for Genesis. They was like, Genesis is a fearless powerhouse. They're like, she is? When did that happen? When have we ever notified her as being a powerhouse? Segment after that is the main event. Princess Aussie and the Classmaster with Samantha Smart for the WoW Championship. Now, I can appreciate that they have tried to make the WoW Championship feel and look and walk and talk and sound important. But I just, think I've lost faith. Well, actually, I did that a long time ago, but in whatever value the WoW Championship had, I certainly do not view it in the same way that they do. The WoW Championship is the championship of this television show. It is not a world's title by any stretch of the imagination, nor has it been given to anybody who is capable of making it a world's championship for any lengthy period of time. They've had like 3 or 4 people that could have, but either circumstance, time, or some other extenuating factor prevented them from doing it. Santana Garrett, for instance. She had that championship for a fairly long period of time. It was during a hiatus in the dark period of WoW, but she had it. So there was no point in her going around protesting like, I'm the wild champion. You know, it wasn't no point in it. It was a nice emotional story for Jungle Girl to get the title when she got it. But again, that was like during a dark period. And she didn't have any matches with anybody to help elevate the championship. The Beast was never going to be in a position to be able to do anything for that title. I'm sorry, no matter what I might think about it, because all she was able to do, by and large, was squash matches, except for the occasional brick versus brick match that she would have, like her versus Classmaster or her versus Vicky Lynn. Anybody else would have to go out of their way and cheat nonstop or whatever. Well, you know, I shouldn't say that. That's not true. You got some people that are able to stretch it out like Penelope Pink. But anyhow, Pink was probably the closest one in my estimation of recent note that did something for the championship just out of match quality. What Tessa Blanchard, but they're never going to acknowledge that. She had some great matches with that title. But even her narrative in there was stupid. Didn't make any sense. That they were trying to portray her as somebody that was ducking and dodging challengers, but she would take on anybody else other than the Beast. People who were coming within an eyelash of beating her. Like, I don't know why you would choose Serpentine or what Thunder Rosa was who was playing the part, but I don't know why you would choose her and think that would be a walk in the park or something. And on and on and on and on and on. And the Classmaster is not any different. Like I said, her entire gimmick at this point is just silliness. So we move into the match. Aussie comes out first, followed by the Classmaster. Classmaster can't help making dumb faces all the time. Now, when she gets into the ring, however, I will just give credit where I shouldn't say when she gets into the ring because she still makes faces in there too. When the bell rings and the match starts, she starts to minimize what she's doing at that point. But I don't know if this is her effort of trying to be intimidating or trying to be, threatening or whatever. I don't know if that's what she feels like or intends to be doing with that. But she comes off a lot better on the independent circuit as Lois Grain opposed to the Classmaster. And I wish that there was some way to create a hybrid between the two. Because as Lois Grain, she doesn't work big. From the match that I saw, she doesn't feel like she works big. But she doesn't really overplay stuff like she does as the Classmaster. Classmaster is just over the top, highly animated, and silly. But the Classmaster in the ring works big. She works dominant. She works strong. There's inconsistency to whatever it is that she's using that for a finish that week. But beyond that, I mean, there's defining differences between how she works in one location versus the next. So I wish that there was some way that they could, or that she could marry the two and become, a better version of herself. But I also get the impression, you remember earlier in the show where I was like, hey, look, everybody out there is looking for like a WWE contract and they're fine with what they're doing and where they are and all that stuff. She strikes me as that. Now, I could be wrong. She might turn around and be like, no, I'd love to go to WWE. That's very possible. But the way that I perceive her right now, not having spoke to her, not having had any communication with her. So, again, this is take that with a grain of salt. But I do not get any indication that she is hard pressed for trying to create a career off of that beyond being in WoW. So we start the match and, we got Aussie, we got Classmaster. They try to do the lockup. Aussie ducks underneath. She does it twice. I don't know why the first time Classmaster missed, that was a sign of I'm smart. because she missed like a big oath and then goes into the corner like, no, and then points at her head like, I was too smart for that. And I was like, I don't know what you were smart about there. She got out of your way, but. So anyhow, and that's the other thing that bothers me with her. They never really defined, is she supposed to be smart or is she just the brutish oaf that thinks she is? I lean towards she's the brutish oaf that thinks she's smart, but I don't know that. So Aussie lures her into the corner. She gets out of the way. She starts wailing away on the Classmaster. Classmaster does the old muscle thing. I'm just going to shove you off of me. And she hurls her like across the ring. There's, the old out quick, out speed, whatever. Aussie kicks out the knee, drops Classmaster down to, one knee. But she doesn't go down fully. She tries to get her in the, head scissors and gets that for a moment, but that doesn't take her down either. She does like a stinger splash in the corner. She keeps running around until Classmaster catches her, gives her snake eyes on the top turnbuckle, and then she runs across the ring at a high velocity and nails Princess Aussie in the face with a big boot. I had thought that the big boot was her finish. She had done it a number of times. So like she had like 3 or 4 weeks in a row where the big boot was the thing. But here is like, nope, it was just a passing move. That is an issue that I really hope WoW fixes, because she's not the only one that's guilty of that. Well, they'll have some finishing move that they establish for like a week or two, and then they just move on to something else. Now, look, if you don't want to have one that you stick with over and over again, I mean, that's fine. But when they start establishing one as this is my move, this is the thing that ends the match, and you've educated the audience to that, then don't take it away. Just either use it, it would have been just as easy to go for a clothesline as opposed to the boot, or have Aussie move out of the way. Don't sacrifice what was perceived as your finish to go do something else. I mean, because it might have, at least for the viewing audience at home, perhaps. Maybe not the ones live in the attendance, because they probably don't give a shit. But, for those that are watching, if the boot has been established as the thing, then use the boot. It is a fair enough match between the two of them. They worked well. Like I said, we're not talking about what they did preceding. When I say they, I mean the Classmaster, obviously. Because Aussie did not have any preceding promos or backstage interviews and things like that, the way the Classmaster did. But this is fair, and it made Classmaster look strong. I still hate the name, and they tried to go out of their way to make her, like the dominant thing. And you got McLean like, oh yeah, Aussie can't really get a hold of Classmaster right now, or something like that. Classmaster hurls Aussie across the ring, and she's selling. She's bouncing around, and she's doing all that she could do within the confines of this match to make the Classmaster look big and strong and dominant, and that she is a mountain to be overcome. And you can't fault that. She did great with that. Classmaster, Lois Grain, did, the moves that she does well. The leg drop on the back of the back of the neck, whatever Zane called it, dropping knowledge. The leg drop that she just dropped on across the throat. Basic, but I always like the term that when you're big and you're strong, basic moves account for a lot. That was always one of the big sells when you got somebody in the ring who was maybe not as technically sound or did not have the variety of moves, but they were large and certainly significantly larger than their opponent. That was the thing that I would lean on with that, because it was easy to understand. When you're that big and you're that strong, or you tower that much over your opponent, et cetera, you don't always need to have some sort of, highly complicated thing. Basic moves in that situation will work because their power will make it work. So we got another case in the corner, and I'm going, somewhat out of sequence here. So Aussie goes to the turnbuckle. Classmaster catches her when she's trying to leap over the back of Classmaster, but she's holding on to the top ropes. She won't let go, but when she does a roll through, which forces Classmaster face first into the second turnbuckle, which was a nice touch. I have to give him that. And then we get Aussie. She's trying to mount the comeback. She's, doing everything that she can to put the Classmaster away. She tries to get a double underhook in. Don't know whether that would have been a double underhook DDT or whether that would have been a butterfly suplex. We don't know because she was cut off. Classmaster was able to fight through and then put Aussie back in trouble. This sets her up for a slingshot. She gets her headed towards the corner, and Samantha Smart grabs her book and puts it right over top of the turnbuckle so that when Aussie comes flinging in, she goes face first into the book. Meanwhile, in the back, you can see that he's already up out of his seat. And he's screaming and hollering and then pointing at Samantha Smart. Look, she used the book. We don't know what's in that book. It could be a steel plate. It could be this. It could be that. I was like, okay. Another case of I am going to stand here and I'm going to call this thing happening in front of me. I'm pointing at it. The referee, you would think that this dude could probably see this nut at the commentator table hollering and screaming and pointing at the book as much as he can. It is your boss. And it's like, nope, it's all fine. You would think at this point he would be able to say, hey, look, I'm going to ban Samantha Smart from ringside because she just cheated. Look at what she did. Nope. That didn't happen. It just went on like normal. So he calls that, and like I said, you can see him screaming and yelling and like just an attention whore in this particular instance. And it's like, after all of that, it's still allowed, so it didn't matter what he was saying and screaming about. I don't know why he was out of his chair to do that in the first place, but like I said, get your attention however you get your attention. Classmaster comes in on Princess Aussie, kind of slowly stalking her, picks her up, hoists her into firewoman's carry position, and just slings her down, 1, 2, 3. I personally preferred the big boot rather than that. So she gets the win, and she, points at her noggin like, aha, genius, how I did that. Samantha Smart gets in the ring, and they're happy together, and she raises her arm, and so her twin tower stands right next to her as she holds up the belt. This was good, but it was also a cold match. It didn't really further anything, something like that. It was just, I guess the significance of this is that it was the first match as a champion / title defense for Classmaster. So in that regard, I guess it's something. But one thing, well, actually two. Going back to the Ashley Blaze thing and Scout Parker match. which again I enjoyed. But I found it odd that the one time that she did win was the one time McClain did not bring up that brace, and that is somehow her psychological well, that's she just has it because it's psychological. Doesn't really hurt. She just has it on because she just convinced herself she needs it, or whatever he says. Amazingly, that was not brought up, and then she wins. And then we got this with the main event. And what happens during the main event is, at the beginning of it, you start talking about Terri Gold winning the championship again. Goes into the full on I can't even say it was an angle because it was the first show. But it starts talking about, Selena Majors is on route to winning the title, and then this happened and that happened, and Thug put her out, and Terri Gold. All right, look, I got it. We've seen the footage of the Battle Royal for like 2 weeks, at least twice on there, and it's been brought up a couple of times in the past as they were leading up to the Battle Royal. And yes, it is part of WoW's history, and I get that and acknowledge that. But, and I don't want to be insulting to the lady because, I'm sure she was doing her job at the time, but Terri Gold is not a name. At best, she's a name in WoW's universe, and that's vague at that. That's been 25 years ago. Or at least 24. She's a vague name at best. Having her name attached to that WoW championship doesn't do anything. How she won doesn't do anything. Who is up for the title at that time doesn't do anything. And I don't want to say that insulting them, but I mean, I don't know how you could argue that point. Once WoW ended, or went on this hiatus, we'll call it, because, I know they were like, well, we never really ended. We just kind of stopped producing. Once WoW went on this initial hiatus of 14 years, Terri Gold didn't do anything in wrestling beyond that. I think she tried one other promotion which was equally as cartoony, and I forget the character that she was playing. And after that, that was it. It's not like they built up the name Terri Gold to where attaching that name to that title would give you some sort of, oh, I see now that we got those kind of talents going after this championship. Well, it must be important. This is all stuff within their own universe, and I'm hard pressed to think that even there it means much. And I'm not trying to disparage her, but seriously, I was like, I don't know where this would be in terms of value that you would need to even bring that up to begin with, because it just, all due respect to her and the other individuals that had the chance, her and Danger and stuff, but none of them have name value in the wrestling scope. All they're going to be looked at is just WoW creations. And as long as it's that, then, the less said about them, the better. Because you can't really give, here are the names that went after the championship type deal. One of the first things that you saw when ECW got national television is that they tried to put that title over. This title has been wrestled for and sought after by such names as Ron Simmons, Tully Blanchard, Stone Cold Steve. They went down every big name that even remotely walked through that place and challenged for the title. And then later they went down to people who actually had the title, which again became another who's who of champions. You can say that with the NWA Women's Championship. Like that's one of the things that they do get to lean on in terms of the lineage of that belt. It's like, if you can't say anything else about it, we've had a number of names that you know and you recognize and that were very good and in the business and made a name or made an impact some way or another that we can point at and say, hey, this is something. Mildred Burke, recognized first NWA Women's Champion. They are making a movie about her right now. Or that's about to be released, Queen of the Ring, based on the book. That's 1950 that she had that championship initially. June Byers, 1954. And those are people who had, legendary status. And within the wrestling community should have legendary status. Do you think 40, 50 years from now, they're going to be like, well, we're going to make a thing about the career of Terri Gold? Probably not. Because she didn't have a full one. And I repeat, not trying to take shots at her. I'm just saying she, amongst all of the ones in that first phase of WoW, had no name value. To where bringing this up every other chance that you get meant anything or means anything. You could at least say, with the NWA Women's Championship now that you have talented people. 3 of them are in WoW. Or were. Barbie Hayden, Santana, Garrett, and Amber Gallows. Gallows isn't there anymore. Hayden is Abilene Maverick. Garrett, we know. They're all former NWA Women's Champions. And I would venture to say that probably has more weight on it than the WoW Championship. Although at this point, it might not be, it might be a moot point if they're not trying to pursue anything else. But in that company, you can't really even capitalize on it because I don't know if they acknowledge it. They're kind of inconsistent in what they acknowledge and what they do and don't acknowledge. But I just had to get that off because, he started talking about it. And I was like, I don't really see the point in having this Terri Gold moment again. It's great that she was there. Yes, she is their first champion and whatnot. I just wish that they had a name that they could look at and say, this person had our championship. And at this stage, the only person that they can really apply that to is probably somebody that they don't want to. The note that I had, particularly about the Sibley Scoles backstage interview, is like the show's editors and or producer is getting too cute for themselves with their video packages. Like it doesn't just get the point across. All the other stuff that they had around that, like I said, they cut the interview short. And it obviously is cut short. And it didn't give anything beyond that. So I was like, I think they might want to, and I know it's too late now because they, probably got the next 6 month worth of shows in the can. But, or getting ready to. But I think that they might need to lean towards, hey, just get the information across. The video packages look great. And you do a wonderful job with that. But don't short the information. The information is important. And that one segment did nothing to sell the main event match. In my opinion. Yeah, like I said, it was just a cold match. It's good. Enjoyable to watch. But it didn't have any heat on it. Moving on. Because I, don't want to stress myself out talking about that. I want to read the upcoming show. This is the one I started off with where I said, hey, this does not feel like it is a show that makes a lot of overall sense to me, but I will leave that to your discretion. The preview for the next episode is called Dolls and Playthings. This will be season 3, episode 22. And they write, Genesis remains in the championship title hunt, and her challenge could be the toughest of all when she battles the Albanian grappler Xena Phoenix in the opening bout of WoW. In tag team action, Fury and Miranda Mirage team to battle the Mighty Might, Sugar and Spice. Veronica Varoom takes on Pep Riley, who's been undergoing a bit of a transformation in recent weeks due to a friendship is in quotations, with Chainsaw. Can Pep Riley's friendship with Chainsaw help her score victory? And in the main event, Miami Sweet Heat, Lindsay and Lori Carlson continue to seek to up their win record and stake their claim for a championship match to regain the WoW Tag Team Championship title. That is a lot that they put into that last bit. So anyhow, so let's look at what we've got here. And bear in mind, I expect them to go out of their way to explain these things. I'm dreading the explanation. 1, I don't have a problem with Genesis taking on Xena Phoenix. That match could be fun. It might be the match of the show, and possibly. But what is Fury and Miranda Mirage teaming up for? Wasn't Fury supposed to be attached to Sylvia Sanchez when he said that they were going after the WoW Tag Team Championships? And then she just reverted back to being a single. Now she's back in the tag team. Fury is just lost in this company. Leave. I don't really put that out there for a lot of my tribe because I know that they like working with WoW and WoW's been good to them and all that stuff. But look, if you have any desire to go anywhere else in wrestling beyond doing what you're doing, leave. Leave. Get out of there. Fury is just treading water. Harlow O'Hara might still have mileage on her, but Fury is treading water. And she's just tossed into any random tag team that she needs to be tossed into just because. Where's Siren? Why is this a tag team to begin with? Veronica Varoom, who I'm not looking forward to, but the phrasing here, Pep Riley has been undergoing a bit of a transformation in recent weeks. When does this happen? When have we seen her transforming? So I read that line and I went onto their media page and I looked at some of the pictures. All right, so her look has begun to change, starting with her hair. And if I am going to judge by the pictures at all, her demeanor. And by her, we are talking about Pep Riley. So then my question becomes, what was this? Where did this come from? 1, we have not seen any sort of transformation out of Pep Riley for any period of time. 2, she saved Chainsaw from the clutches of her evil sister. Are we now saying that Chainsaw is not influencing Pep Riley to go evil? If that is the case, what was any of this for? I mean, and it's not like, it's hard to see. She basically started morphing into goddamn Harley Quinn. That's what it looks like. So what was that whole angle about? Was she not supposed to be saving Chainsaw? Was Chainsaw supposed to be influencing her? What was this about? It doesn't make any sense if this is where it's going. And that's why I say I so hope I'm wrong. I hope I am wrong. That it is something else going on. Maybe she's still a baby face, but she just decided to change her look up. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. But that transformation line there's like that, I'm scared for that. And then we got the main event. And I thought it was a bit odd that they didn't name anybody as the opponents of Miami Sweet Heat. So I looked. And I was like, why are they going against Chantelacella and Roxy? What happened to the Fierce Sisters? It's the first thing I see. Where's Holiday for Chantelacella? They've been a tag team for some time now. And where's Foxy for her sister, which they just had maybe the most impressive win that they've had, and immediately the next time that we see them split up. Why is this happening? It could have been mileage on, hey, it's the Fierce Sisters against Miami Sweet Heat, the Coulson twins. Good video packaging, might have been worth seeing, but why is this match taking place? What is this for? It is nerve-wracking. And that's the bulk of the review. And I sincerely hope that the stuff that I saw, I'm incorrect about. Maybe they will prove me wrong. As I'm recording this, it will pop back up sometime tonight. I will see it. And I will take the notes, and I hope it doesn't upset me like I'm expecting to be upset. But moving on to close this thing, thank you for tuning in. Like always, if you are on YouTube, do the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe. If you listen to this on the podcast platforms, rating it, leaving the comments always helps. We are on greater podcast platforms everywhere. But if you do not know where to find us for some reason and you just happen to stumble across it, then you go to WPNWrestling.com. WPNWrestling.com. Everything goes there, all videos, all podcasts. Every once in a while, I might have a blog, and then, there's a 24-hour stream that's going on there. And I've just been contacted about somebody who wanted me to put in some family-friendly programming on it. And so I would just say this in advance of that, and if you see any family-friendly programming on that, then yes, I just went and took the money, which I probably would do. So there we go. I try to be upfront with y'all as I can, So in any case, that is the show. That's the review. I hope that I am not disappointed. My fingers are crossed, but we'll see. And on that, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long. And we'll see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.